Hello and welcome to today's video. Interesting week is behind us, from getting key CPI data to finding out that presidents of USA and China are going to have a meeting in the following week. Combine this with some key earnings and you have an exciting week nonetheless. Without further ado, let's start. Before we start, disclaimer, nothing here is a financial advice. I'm just one person with a microphone. Always do your own research. Investor sentiment is still in the fear zone, but when looking at the markets, they don't feel this at the moment, as S&P broke 6,800 for the first time in history last week, and it closed the week up almost 2%. Now on the crypto front, investors are getting more and more nervous, and with the right reasons. I might add, as a Bitcoin, at least for now, didn't have its typical October moment. As we are entering last week of the October, there is less and less time for Bitcoin to make it up, but still risk happens fast, and maybe final week will give us what we were looking for. Now let's discuss some positive signs why it could end up that way. First, Bitcoin successfully defended lower end of the range at 103k, which acted as a resistance during late 2024 and later turned support. Second, it managed to retain its 200 weekly moving average support after battling with it the whole last week. Lastly, turning to total crypto market cap, it currently stands at 3.7 trillion, and a maximum it was at 4.3 trillion, which represents 40% upside from 2021 highs of 3 trillion. Even though there is some logic that asset class is getting bigger, so it makes sense expansion is getting slower, again, I still think there is some gas left in the tank to attack that 5 trillion market cap, especially as we have all those ETFs and crypto regulations which are friendly. But as an investor, it's my job to manage risk, so if I see that Bitcoin doesn't succeed closing October at least in the green, I will reduce my altcoin exposure by additional 20% after converting first 20% during last week into stablecoins. That way I keep exposure for potential upside, but also reduce the risk in case of downfall, so hopefully Bitcoin regains momentum in the final innings of October. Now let's talk why I think Bitcoin will have a good week. First, crucial CPI print came just below expectation of 3.1%, at 3%, which represents small increase month over month, but it is below expectations, which virtually guarantees rate cut during upcoming FOMC meeting in the last week of October. Also, any new information about QT ending will be additional positive catalyst. Also, meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping will probably have positive developments, which should also give boost to the markets. Ongoing government shutdown is still ongoing, and this could act as a break, but if we get some resolution or at least rumors of deal getting closer, this would also help. So all in all, we have couple of ongoing developments which will define market performance. Now on to Tesla earnings. Total revenue increased 12% year over year, with automotive revenue increasing 6%, while energy increased 44%. Operating margin was down 501 basis points, net income 37% down year over year. Cash reserve increased to record 41.6 billion. On the earnings call, focus was on the future products. There was information about expected increased capex spending in 2026. Safety drivers are expected to be removed by end of the year in parts of the Austin, and Elon was concerned about his influence over the future of the company. If you are interested for more in-depth breakdown, head on to my Substack, link will be in the description of the video. Stock price was volatile, swinging as high as $450 and low as $413, to finally end the week 1.3% down, closing at $433. Now on to Elevance earnings. Revenue was 50.1 billion, which represents 12% upside year over year. Diluted earnings per share were $5.32, while it has reaffirmed its guidance and expense ratio. 3.3 billion was returned to shareholders in form of share repurchases and stock buybacks. Stock price was up as much as $379 in the pre-market at one point, shy just $1 of my minimum price target, but as earnings call started, all the gains evaporated, as management sounded defensive going into 2026 2026, highlighting ongoing margin pressures and uncertainty related to ACA subsidies, which resulted in the stock price ending the week down 1.8%, closing at $342. Looking ahead with already mentioned macro events, there is quite a list of earnings to conclude this October, like Big Tech, Meta, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Apple all report. Healthcare leader UNH is set to report, and anyone invested in them, if interested, I made summary of their last earnings, so you can check it out. Link should appear upper right. Crypto names like Strategy, Coinbase and Riot are also all expected to report, among many other interesting names. What a final week of the month is ahead of us. Okay, this is it for today's video. If you want to read full in-depth dive, you can go to my Substack. Also, there are other in-depth topics. Also, for daily insights and market updates, subscribe to my X account, and for more educational content, check my website. Links for everything will be in the description of the video. Good luck to everyone. This is it for today's video, and see you in the next video. Bye.